Morning, all. All right, so I kind of made up most of the stuff on this board last night, and I thought, okay, so I could record a news of the day video at 10:30 at night my time, or no. So I opted for no. So today we have 5 games on, starting at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, which is 12:30 Pacific. The Vancouver Canucks in Calgary against the Calgary Flames, and so this is it. This is the end of the regular season while we're well into the playoffs. The Canucks 23-28-4. They will be without Tanner Pearson. Pearson's been allowed to leave the team for family reasons. Hopefully everything's okay with him. The Flames 25-27-3, finishing out their season. I would think Markstrom, probably Holtby. I'm not overly concerned about whether it's Holtby or Demko. I don't even know if the Canucks are all that concerned either. So this brings the regular season to an end and the weirdness that we're going through. So I'm wearing a Flames jersey. It's the last time that I can wear a jersey for a preview that's not related to the playoffs during the playoffs, which is in and of itself is weird. But we'll talk about the Canucks again through in this video, and there may be a video on the whole thing once it's officially revealed, but it sounds like it's going to happen. So we'll come to that. Then at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific, Oshie at practice not at practice, I should say, for the Capitals. He may not be in the lineup tonight for the Capitals game against the Boston Bruins. And so we'll see how that goes. His status is uncertain. The good news, if you're a Caps fan, is that Kuznetsov, it looks like, will be in the lineup. He's been cleared to play. So, yeah, the series is tied at 1, of course. And so for Boston, they have to keep an eye on Kuznetsov and make sure they keep things under control. But so far, this series has been very close, and I expect it to stay close. Wouldn't be surprised if every game goes to overtime at all. At 8 o'clock Eastern, we get into Nashville against Carolina. And keep in mind that I got these start times from the app, and the app will give you the start times for the broadcast. The games themselves often start 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes after the time that's given to you by the app. But at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, the broadcast will start for Carolina at home against Nashville for Game 2. Carolina made it look relatively easy in Game 1, comparatively speaking, with other series. This one looked pretty straightforward. We'll see if that happens again in Game 2. Nashville needs to find that next gear, or Carolina could make this a very fast series in terms of when it's done. It's fast on the ice, too, because Carolina does play that speed game. And so, yeah, we'll see. We'll see whether or not Nashville can avoid going down 2-0 as Florida did against Tampa last night. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. So the series will start in the North today. We get the Edmonton-Winnipeg series. Tomorrow, of course, is Toronto and Montreal, which there have been so many articles on Toronto-Montreal. And I get it. The excitement is real because we don't know when this is going to happen again. Even though they're in the same division, it should happen regularly. It just doesn't. So 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific will be start of Game 1 between Winnipeg and Edmonton. Like I said, that's the start of the broadcast, not necessarily the start of the game. I didn't really have to specify that during the regular season because there wasn't a big discrepancy between when the broadcast would start and the puck would drop. It was basically 9 minutes. It feels like it's more right now. But yeah, so we'll see whether or not McDavid and Draisaitl can continue their magic into the playoffs. They should be able to. I mean, I would love to see Winnipeg secure an upset here, to be completely honest. I think that would be a great storyline. But in reality, I just think Edmonton has the edge here. Unless Hellebuck can absolutely steal it, which I won't rule it out completely, but he didn't have the season this year that he had last year, so we'll see. It should be a very entertaining series. And then at 10:30 Eastern, which is 7:30 Pacific, we get the St. Louis Blues and the Colorado Avalanche. And this is part of the reason why I like the fact that I'm doing all of these games separate, on separate boards, so I can do the reviews separately, so I don't have to worry about tonight doing one really long review for all these games. And St. Louis, Colorado is going to be worth staying up for, depending on whether or not you have to work in the morning. If you're in the East Coast, it starts at 10:30 Eastern, you got to work in the morning, you may not be able to watch this one. Unless you're rebellious, and I don't encourage that. Really don't encourage that. But yeah, so Colorado and St. Louis, the Avs looked pretty unstoppable in the first game. The salivating from Pierre Maguire was, you could hear it. So we'll see whether or not Colorado can be stopped tonight by the Blues. We'll see what happens. The Blues are a playoff season team, so they are absolutely capable of a comeback from being down 1-0. Once you get past game one, there can be overreaction. But once you get past game two, you get a feel for just what kind of series you're looking at here. So we'll see. Now, on to the news of the day. Blashill's had his contract extended by Detroit. I still haven't found any article stating how long it's been extended for. Could be a year, could be 3. I would think it's minimum of 2, right? So Blashill's been extended, and I know if you're a Red Wings fan, you might be like, oh, not Blashill, but really, given the current environment, unless Yzerman was going to go out and try to get Gallant, and I haven't seen any reports of Detroit even asking to talk to him, because of course Vegas still is the team that pulls those strings. It's Blashill's job. And I honestly think Detroit got more points this year than they should have with the lineup they had on the ice. And I didn't see anything in their game this year that made me say, you know what, this coach needs to be fired. There were other coaches that I had that feeling during the year. I didn't get that feeling with Blashill. Not at all. Mark Stahl. Also, there's discussions between himself and Detroit. He may re-sign and stick around with the Red Wings. I thought he had a better year this year than he had previously in New York for the Rangers. So again, as long as the cap hit's not too high, I think that's a good move. I think the depth on the blue line is important. So Vancouver Twitter melted down yesterday. Come on, it's getting sad. And I'm saying that in all honesty, as a man who's 48, and I've followed this team for 40 years. When I see people saying this is the darkest time ever, nah. They were in the playoffs 12 months ago. Well, not even 12 months ago. They went on this nice run. We all remember the run everybody was having. I loved that run they had last fall. And I understand. That they knocked out St. Louis because of Markstrom. They pushed Vegas to 7th because of Demko. They knocked out Minnesota because Minnesota didn't have Kaprizov yet. But, man, it was fun, wasn't it? And so when I hear darkest ever and all this, I'm thinking, this doesn't come anywhere close to the 80s. This isn't anywhere near what the franchise went through. But again, I understand that fans think that they can just, I guess, will it into being. That if you all want Benning fired, then he's going to go. And it's weird because now there's this movement too, like we need to get Mike Gillis back. And so the Sedins, there's rumors that they're going to come in under an advisory role or to help with player development. And, of course, the Jeff Courtnall rumor that he's coming in as kind of an overseeing kind of thing, too. And if the Sedins are going to help with development, that's great. They're big fans of Travis Green and Ian Clark as well. I find it odd because it feels like some of the same people that are complaining that the team hasn't re-signed Travis Green are the ones that were earlier in the season calling for him to be fired. There are points during this season where the Canucks weren't playing well for Green at all, and it looked like they tuned him out. So I honestly, and again, this may just be 4 decades of watching the team. I'm kind of okay either way. If the Canucks decide they are going to go a new way for the coach, they're going to go a new direction, okay. If not, okay. If he comes back, I'm fine with that too. Thatcher Demko, though, has gone public with how much he wants Ian Clark to stick around as the goaltending coach. I agree with that. I absolutely agree with the idea that Ian Clark should stick around. He's done some great work in Vancouver. And so, yeah, the other part of this too, though, is we only look at this and see like lame duck coaches. What are the Canucks thinking? What if the guys who are the lame ducks aren't thinking about re-signing with Vancouver? That's the other side of it. What if Ian Clark is saying, I kind of want to look somewhere else? So again, I'm not saying that's happening, but it's a what if scenario, right? So I understand people are all upset because Benning's going to stick around into the fall. He's got 2 years left on his contract. Coming out of this huge loss of money that all these owners have suffered over the last 14 months, they're not really of the mind that they want to fire a guy and have to pay him because he's under contract for 2 more years and then hire somebody else to pay to do that same job while they're paying the other guy to stay home. And so that's one of the reasons being given as to why the Aquilinis may not very well have any interest in moving on from Benning. But, I mean, they said it as well earlier in the season that there was no danger for Benning to lose his job. So they've already done that. And again, this season was so different from every other season. Owners may be looking at that as well and saying, well, this was more of a tournament than anything else. Next year, the Canucks are going back into the Pacific where they're going to be with the 3 California teams who are still going through their own versions of the rebuild process. And you're going to have Seattle in there. They should finish ahead of Seattle. Maybe they don't. I agree, maybe they don't. But you've also got Calgary, who are right now kind of going through their own tumultuous period. So, yeah, I mean, you've got Vegas and Edmonton are both probably still really good next year in that division. But, I mean, the Canucks with the right moves could realistically look at maybe third as being their goal. I'm not saying they get there, but that could be their goal. So, again, I understand the upset. I understand people being all angry and all that. If the team officially announces that Benning's returning for the fall, I will take a look at Benning's tenure, and try to give both sides of the argument about here's the things that have improved and here's the things that have fallen apart. And I expect the things that have fallen apart to outweigh the things that have improved, and I get that. But again, all this energy that's being given, if people really want to voice their disapproval of the entire thing, you don't go to the games. You don't buy the merchandise. You just say I'm out. The same way that I've done with TV shows. There are TV shows I've just said I'm done, and I just stop watching it. And that's it. I don't talk about them. I don't. And when people come up to me and, hey, did you see that show last night? I'm like, I don't watch that anymore. I don't really care. And that's the only way that if people want to vote and actually have it make a difference, owners will notice when they're making less money. Owners will notice not just when there's empty seats, because people pointed out there were empty seats in Vancouver a couple years ago. Yeah, but they were all bought and paid for. The NHL doesn't care if you buy season tickets and you don't show up. That's not their problem. Oh, you didn't show up for your seat? Well, shucks, you paid us money, and it's the equivalent of buying food and then not going to pick it up. The restaurant doesn't care that you didn't pick it up. They'll just throw it out. They got your money. So those empty seats don't matter as long as they're paid for. Detroit is the same thing, where we were seeing empty seats all the time at Little Caesars, but those seats were paid for. And so when you see the paid attendance and people get all upset like, oh, the NHL lies about their paid attendance, there's no way those seats were paid for. Sure they were. They're lower bowl. They're likely all completely sold. Just either those fans didn't show up that night, or they're sitting at a restaurant somewhere in the building, or whatever. And so, and I've seen that in Vancouver. I've seen season ticket holders come in during a game and leave before the game's over. And I'm not sure what they get out of it, but those seats are paid for. They'll come in, they'll sit down for one period and go, well, I've seen enough. They might come in and just watch the second. Maybe they just had a couple of hours off of work where they could just sit and watch a little bit of the game. And no judgment from me or from the NHL. The empty seats may look ugly for us on when we're watching on TV, but as long as they're paid for, the NHL doesn't care. So the only way that people really voice their disapproval that owners are going to listen is by saying, hey, I'm not spending money on any of your stuff anymore. I'm not going to peruse your sites. You're not getting any clicks from me, and that's it. And I don't see that happening in the Vancouver market. I'd be very surprised if that happened in the Vancouver market. I saw a lot of people yesterday like, oh, I'm canceling my season ticket. No, you're not. Nope. I know personally for me, I've put down a deposit on tickets. I've got a deposit on tickets here in Abbotsford as well. I don't know how many tickets I'm looking at. Like, I know it would be 2 for me and my wife, right? I don't know how many games I would be going to. I'm guessing 10. I'm thinking 10 in Vancouver and maybe 5 here in Abbey, but yeah, we'll see. But I'm not gonna say, oh, Benning's gonna be back. Well, forget that then, because I don't get that upset about it. I know there are fans that do, but I don't get that upset about it. Really don't. All right, so moving on. Rick Tocchet is in demand. He is in demand. The Rangers in Seattle. He will be interviewing for both jobs. And so Seattle's, going full bore towards trying to hire their first NHL coach. And for the Rangers, Tocchet might work. The thing with Tocchet is you look at his time in Arizona, the defense was good. Special teams were iffy when you look at the power play, but pretty good penalty kill wise. But he does have a coaching style which does suppress your bigger goal scorers and point producers. So I'm not sure how that works with the Rangers trying to sell a young, up and coming team if the coach is going to preach a style that's going to cause a guy like Lafreniere or even Zibanejad to score less. And that doesn't necessarily mean not as much success, but we'll see, because I don't know that coaching style matches with the team that well, but we'll see, because I guess it depends on the coaching staff around him, and whether or not maybe he changes his style. Maybe he looks at how things went in Arizona and says, I made a mistake there with this and this, and I'll change that next time around. UC Jokinen officially has retired. He hasn't played in the NHL since 2018. He retires with 951 games in the NHL played, with 191 goals, 372 assists for 563 points. So kudos to Jokinen. I do believe I've already got a video on the channel on UC Jokinen as well. Played for a lot of teams, and maybe he was sticking around hoping for that one last chance at another team. Maybe it was Seattle, and no, I'm kidding. He goes back to Europe for a few years, has a good time for himself, and now he's retiring. So kudos to him in retirement. Yesterday, this made news that the province of Quebec is going to be relaxing their restrictions to the point where you could have 2,500 fans in attendance for Game 6 at the earliest in the series between Toronto and Montreal, but then you'd have fans in attendance beyond that. So be 2,500 fans, and if the playoffs went far enough in Canada, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw that in other locations as well. But we'll see. For now, Montreal's the one Canadian location where we can see that. And yeah, Game 6 and beyond. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes and what kind of a boost that gives them. Because again, that would be a Game 6, right? So that's an elimination game one way or the other. You can't have a Game 6 where a team's not facing elimination. So that could be a boost for them. But we'll see. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happen upon this video. And for people who are too young to remember the 80s Canucks or the 90s Canucks or any of the suffering that the team went through then, this is nothing new. Just kind of got to roll with it. And yeah, so let me know your thoughts, as I said. And hey, I'll talk to you guys again soon.